The lobby of Vane Global was less a room and more a cathedral to commerce, a cavern of glass and shadow-gray Italian marble that stretched 80 feet to a ceiling of suspended light. It was designed to make rivals feel small and partners feel rich. Arthur Vane, the architect of it all, was gliding across this expanse, flanked by two immensely important and visibly impressed investors from Tokyo. He was mid-sentence, his voice a smooth, confident baritone that cut perfectly through the ambient hum of silent, efficient work. The leveraged yield on the new REIT, he was saying, is projected to eclipse multi-trillion. A sudden small blur of motion. A gasp. Not from him, but from the child. Then, impact. Arthur Vane stopped dead. He looked down. A dark, rapidly spreading stain of water was blossoming on the left leg of his bespoke Loro Piana wool suit. The trousers alone, he calculated with the speed of a high-frequency trade, were worth $4,000. Standing before him, frozen in terror, was a little girl, perhaps 7. She had a face of pale porcelain, wide, terrified blue eyes, and meticulously neat blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. In her hand, she clutched a dented, disposable plastic water bottle, now empty. I'm sorry, sir," she whispered, her gaze fixed on the puddle forming on the pristine, reflective floor. I was looking for the M button." Arthur Vane did not hear her. He ignored her completely, his mind already calculating the disruption, the lack of control, the filth. He turned to his head of security, a large man in a dark suit who materialized instantly at his elbow. Arthur's face was a mask of cold, concentrated fury. "Get this, interloper. Out of my building. Now." His voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp, like breaking glass. The Japanese investors shifted, their impassive faces betraying a flicker of discomfort. The girl flinched, not at his words, but at the sudden, firm grip of the security guard on her thin upper arm. The guard, trained to be efficient, began to pull her away. "Please," the girl whimpered, "I have to find my brother." She stumbled, her balance lost. As she did, her left foot kicked out slightly, dragging against the marble, and Arthur Vane's gaze, drawn by the sudden, clumsy movement, landed on her shoes. They were, he supposed, once pink. Now they were a faded, grimy gray rose. The brand was unrecognizable, scrubbed away by time and pavement. The right sole, he saw, flapped open at the toe, revealing a damp gray sock. But it was the left shoe that stopped his heart. The entire sole was held to the upper by a frantic, crisscrossing lattice of silver, industrial-strength duct tape. The lace on that same shoe was not a lace at all, but a short, frayed piece of rough, brown twine. The world tilted. The hum of the lobby faded. The multi-trillion-dollar yield vanished from his mind. He was no longer seeing the girl's shoes. He was seeing a pair of mud-caked, oversized work boots, his father's, stuffed with newspaper to fit his own 9-year-old feet. He was seeing his mother, her hands raw, trying to patch a hole in his only shirt with a scrap from a flour sack. He was smelling the damp, metallic scent of the migrant camp outside Bakersfield, the smell of poverty and rain. He was, for one horrifying second, Arturo Velez again. "Stop," he said. The word was quiet, choked, but it carried the absolute authority of a man who owned the very air they were breathing. The guard froze, his hand still clamped on the girl's arm. Arthur's investors stared, baffled. His assistant, Evelyn, who had been hovering just behind him, took a small, involuntary step forward. Arthur crouched. It was an unnatural, stiff, alien movement for him, the expensive wool of his suit pulling tight across his back. He was now eye level with the child. The water from his trousers was dripping onto his $5,000 handmade leather shoe, and he did not notice. "What?" he said, his voice different now, rougher. "Did you say about an M button?" The girl, Lily, was trembling, her eyes darting between the angry man's face and the guard's hand. For the mailroom," she stammered. "My brother, Leo, it's his first day. He forgot his lunch." She held up a small brown paper bag, clutched tight in her other hand. It was also, Arthur noted, slightly damp from the spill. Arthur stood slowly. He looked at the spreading water stain on his leg as if it were a mortal wound. Then he looked at the girl, at her defiant, terrified eyes, and at the duct-taped shoe. The anger was gone, evaporated, replaced by something cold, complex, and deeply unsettling. A problem. A variable he had not accounted for. A stain on his life, not just his suit. "Evelyn," he said, turning to his assistant. Her pen was already poised over her tablet. "Cancel the 3 p.m. with the board. Cancel the 4 p.m. with legal." The investors stiffened. This was a billion-dollar negotiation. "Mr. Vane," one of them began, "we have come a long way." Arthur held up a single, imperious hand. "Gentlemen, a matter of, internal logistics has just come to my attention. We will reconvene at 6. My car will take you to the penthouse atrium. You will find the bar satisfactory." It was a dismissal, not a request. They bowed, confused but obedient. As they were ushered away, Arthur turned back to his team. "Evelyn, find out who Leo is in the mailroom. Get him. Get her." He gestured to the girl. "Bring them both to my private conference room, the one on the 80th floor. And Evelyn." She looked at him, her expression perfectly neutral. "Yes, Mr. Vane?" He looked at the girl's feet again. The duct tape seemed to glitter under the expensive lighting. "Get the girl some shoes and a hot meal. Something warm." He did not wait for an answer. He turned and strode toward his private elevator, the wet fabric of his trousers clinging uncomfortably to his leg, leaving a small, damp trail on the perfect marble floor. The 80th floor conference room was Arthur's inner sanctum. Unlike the cold marble of the lobby, it was walled in warm, dark walnut, with a single, massive slab of obsidian for a table. One entire wall was a sheet of floor-to-ceiling glass that offered a staggering, godlike view of the city below. Lily and her brother, Leo, were sitting at the far end of this imposing table. Leo was 19, thin but with a wiry strength, his face a younger male version of Lily's, pale, intelligent, and currently rigid with anxiety. He wore the standard Vane Global mailroom uniform, a crisp, gray button-down shirt that was slightly too large for his frame. He had placed himself between Lily and the door, his arm protectively on the back of her chair. Lily was quiet, munching on a sandwich that had appeared on a silver platter, her eyes wide as she looked out the window. On the floor beside her chair was a simple white shoebox from a mid-range department store. She hadn't opened it. The door hissed open, and Arthur Vane entered. He had changed. He was wearing an identical, perfectly pressed suit. If it weren't for the memory, the incident might never have happened. He took the seat at the head of the table, a full 40 feet of polished stone away from them. "Mr. Sanchez," Arthur began, his voice echoing slightly in the vast room. Leo flinched. "Sir. Mr. Vane, sir. I want to apologize. It's my fault. I told Lily where I worked. I told her she could visit. I didn't mean for her to come up. We don't have much, but I'll pay for the suit. You can take it out of my paycheck, all of it, for as long as it takes. Please don't fire me. This job." He trailed off, the desperation clear. Arthur studied him. He saw the fierce, clumsy pride. He saw the terror. He hated it because he recognized it. It was the same pride that had made him, at 15, punch a foreman who called him a dirty beaner. The suit, Arthur said, his voice flat, is a bespoke garment from the Loro Piana Vicuña line. It is worth, to be precise, $38,000. Your salary in the mailroom is $32,000 per year. You cannot pay for it. Not now. Not ever. Leo's face went white. He looked like he was going to be sick. Lily, hearing the coldness in the man's voice, stopped eating. But it was just water, she whispered. Mommy says water comes out. It is not the water, Arthur said, steepling his fingers. It is the interruption. It is the breach in security. It is the lack of professionalism. Vane Global is not a playground. Leo stood up, his chair scraping loudly. Then fire me, he said, his voice shaking but finding a core of strength. But you leave her out of it. She's 7. She just wanted to bring me my lunch because she knew I didn't have money to buy any. You can fire me, but you don't get to yell at her. Not again. The silence that followed was absolute. Arthur Vane was not a man people spoke to this way. He was a man who crushed markets, who dismantled entire corporations. He could end this boy's entire future with a single phone call. And yet, he felt something other than anger. It was a strange, rusty sensation. Curiosity. You dropped out of Columbia, Arthur stated. It was not a question. Leo froze. How did you know that? I know everything that happens in my building. Arthur lied. He'd had Evelyn run a full report in the 15 minutes it took him to change. Computer science, full scholarship, dean's list every semester, and you threw it away to push a mail cart in my basement. I didn't throw it away, Leo snapped, the anger finally breaking through the fear. My mom. She got sick. Really sick. The scholarship covered tuition, not rent, not medicine, not food. So I did what I had to do. I work. I've worked 3 jobs for the last year. This mailroom job, this is the best one. It has health insurance. He spat the last words as if they were a curse. So yeah, I dropped out, and I'd do it again. Now are we done? Am I fired? Sit down, Arthur said, his voice quiet again. Leo, his defiance draining, slowly sat. Arthur looked at Lily. Why duct tape? He asked, his voice softer. Lily looked at her old, taped-up shoes, then at the new box. Mommy's medicine costs a lot, she said simply, as if explaining the weather. Leo gives all his money to the landlord, and the rest goes to the apothecary for her pills. He was going to buy me new shoes. He promised, when he got his first check from here. But my old ones got a big hole. The rain came in. She looked at Arthur. Duct tape is waterproof. Mr. Henderson at the garage gave it to me. He said it was resourceful. Resourceful. The word echoed in Arthur's head. He remembered wiring a new heating element into his mother's hot plate when he was 10, using a coat hanger and electrical tape. He'd almost burned the shack down. His mother had called him Listo. Smart. Arthur stood and walked to the massive window, turning his back on them. He stared down at the city, at the thousands of windows, the millions of lives he never thought about. He was a man of systems, of data, of cold, hard, profitable logic. This was messy. This was Arturo. Evelyn, he said to the empty air. A small speaker in the table chirped. Yes, Mr. Vane. Get me Dr. Alistair Finch, at Mount Sinai. Tell him I am calling in the favor from the So-8 endowment. I am sending him a new patient. Her name is Maria Sanchez. I want a full diagnostic, a new treatment protocol, and a private room. Today. Yes, sir. And the family? I'm sending you an address. An apartment building in the West Village, one of my properties. The 3-bedroom penthouse. Have it furnished. Simple. Clean. By tonight. Stock the kitchen." "Yes, sir." "And Leo Sanchez." He turned to face them. Leo and Lily were staring at him, their faces a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. "Mr. Sanchez, you are fired from the mailroom, effective immediately." Leo's face crumpled. "Sir, please. You are fired," Arthur continued, walking toward him, "because you are being reassigned. You will re-enroll at Columbia for the fall semester. The Vane Foundation will be issuing you a full, all-inclusive scholarship. Until then, you will be my personal intern. Your pay will be triple what you made in the mailroom. This salary will cover the rent on your new apartment, which is subsidized as a corporate housing benefit. The medical care for your mother is a new pilot program for executive interns. It is all procedural." Leo was speechless. He was opening and closing his mouth like a fish. Lily, however, beamed. "You're a king," she squealed, jumping off her chair. "Like in the stories, you're a magic king." Arthur Vane recoiled as if she had tried to hug him. "I am not a king," he said stiffly. "I am a businessman. This is a transaction, an investment. I am investing in your brain, Mr. Sanchez. You will report to my office tomorrow, 7 a.m. sharp. You will maintain a 4.0 GPA. You will work 20 hours a week for me. If your grades slip, if you are late, if you fail in any way, the procedural benefits end. For all of you. Do you understand me?" I... Yes, Leo managed to say. "Yes, sir. Thank you. I won't. I won't let you down." "See that you don't," Arthur said. He looked at Lily. She was looking at the new shoebox. "Open it," he commanded. She tore the lid off. Inside was a pair of sturdy, black, lace-up school shoes. Sensible, durable, expensive. Lily's face fell, just for a second. They're very nice, sir," she said politely. "Thank you," Arthur nodded, satisfied. "They are functional. They will keep the rain out." He turned to leave. "Evelyn will be here in 5 minutes to escort your mother to the hospital, and you to your new residence. Do not be late tomorrow, Mr. Sanchez." He walked out, the door hissing shut behind him, leaving the two of them in the silent, opulent room, the godlike view of the city spreading before them like a promise. Arthur Vane did not sleep that night. His penthouse, a sterile, minimalist expanse of white and chrome high above the city, felt like a cage. He poured a single, eye-wateringly expensive Macallan, but the taste turned to ash in his mouth. He was disgusted, not with the girl or her family, but with himself. He had let emotion, a messy, unprofitable, dangerous variable, dictate a business decision. He wasn't investing. He was helping. The word felt dirty. He stood in front of his reflection in the dark glass of his apartment, the city lights twinkling behind his own image. He saw the immaculate grooming, the severe side part, the hard lines of his face. This was the face of Arthur Vane, a man who had built an empire from nothing, a man who had erased the scared, filthy, Spanish-speaking boy named Arturo Velez. Arturo had been weak. Arturo had been poor. Arturo had cried when his mother, her lungs rattling with tuberculosis, died in a cramped, unheated trailer in a migrant camp. Arthur Vane had not cried. Arthur Vane had not even attended the funeral. He'd been at a prep school in New England, on a scholarship he'd fought, bled, and cheated for. He'd received the letter a week late. He'd read it, burned it in a trash can, and aced his calculus final. He'd sent money, of course, anonymously through a lawyer, to pay for the cheapest possible burial. He'd scrubbed Arturo from his skin, changed his name legally, bleached his accent, and built Vane Global as a monument to the man he'd invented. It was a fortress against the past. And today, a 7-year-old girl with duct-taped shoes and her defiant, proud brother had breached the walls. They were a stain, a reminder of the filth he'd escaped. His generosity wasn't kindness. It was damage control. It was an extermination. He was treating their poverty like an infestation, spraying it with money until it was clean, sterile, and most importantly, silent. He would fix their lives, make them perfect, and in doing so, erase the embarrassing, messy stain they had left on his lobby and on his memory. He would make them pristine, like him. And then, they would no longer be a threat. He finished his scotch. It was a sound strategy. A logical, cold, perfect solution. He would turn Leo into a version of himself, a ruthless, efficient machine. He would heal the mother, removing the weakness. He would house and educate the girl, containing the chaos. It was a good plan. It was a vain, global plan. So why did he feel the sickening, familiar dread of a 9-year-old boy hiding from his father's drunken rage? He went to his desk and pulled open a drawer. A drawer that, unlike every other surface in his life, was not organized. It was his one secret, messy place. Inside was a single, faded photograph of a dark-haired woman holding a baby. There was also a small carved wooden bird, and a handful of crayon drawings sent to him over the years from a children's charity he funded. Anonymous drawings. He'd kept them. He didn't know why. He touched one, a bright yellow sun with too many rays. Lily's neat blonde hair flashed in his mind. He slammed the drawer shut. "Tomorrow 7 a.m., he said to the empty room. He would fix this. He would fix them. He would turn this emotional liability into a profitable asset. True to his word, Leo Sanchez appeared at 7 a.m. He was standing outside Arthur's office, looking starched and terrified, holding a styrofoam cup of coffee. "You're late," Arthur said, not looking up from his terminal. I'm not, sir. It's 6:59. In my world, 7 a.m. means 6:45. 6:59 is late. The coffee? Oh, it's for you, Leo said, holding it out. I don't drink styrofoam. I don't drink diner coffee, and I don't accept gifts from my interns. It implies a familiarity we do not have. Throw it out. Leo's face hardened, but he nodded. Yes, sir. He walked to the trash can and dropped it in. Your first task, Arthur said, gesturing to a stack of files. This is the preliminary data on the Kensho Group acquisition. This was the deal with the Japanese investors. I want a full analysis of their Q3 logistics protocols. I want to know where they're bleeding money. My team says they're solid. I say they're hiding something. You have 3 hours. 3 hours? Sir, this is thousands of pages. You're a Columbia computer scientist, are you not, or were? Read fast, or better yet, don't read. Analyze. Find the pattern. Go. He dismissed him to a small glass-walled cubicle just outside his own office, and so it began. Arthur was not a mentor. He was a forge. He was brutal, demanding, and utterly relentless. He didn't teach. He tested. He piled work on Leo that would make a senior analyst buckle, and he offered not a single word of praise. Every report Leo submitted, Arthur tore apart. This is sentimental, he'd scrawl in red ink. Where is the data? Market feeling is not a metric. This code is sloppy. It's efficient, yes, but it's not elegant. It has no foresight. You solved this problem. You didn't anticipate the next one. Do it again. Leo, to his credit, didn't break. He absorbed the punishment, the impossible hours, the scathing criticism. He worked until midnight, slept for 4 hours in his new, quiet apartment, and was back at 6:45 a.m. He was just as relentless as Arthur, and he was, as Arthur had suspected, brilliant. A week into this trial by fire, Leo was staring at the Kensho data, his eyes red-rimmed. Arthur was in a meeting. Leo's phone buzzed. It was a picture from Lily. It showed their mother, Maria, sitting at a grand piano in the hospital's rehabilitation wing. Her hands, no longer swollen and twisted with pain, were resting on the keys. She was smiling. The new medication, the physical therapy. It was working. Leo felt a surge of gratitude so powerful it almost made him dizzy. He looked back at the screen, at the endless columns of shipping data. Elegant foresight. He saw it. A tiny discrepancy in fuel cost reports, cross-referenced with their shipping manifests. It was almost invisible, a rounding error, but it was consistent. They weren't just bleeding money, they were being leached. Someone was running a ghost shipping operation through their own logistics. "He's not in," a voice said. Leo looked up. It was one of Arthur's senior VPs, a shark named Marcus Thorne. Thorne was older, handsome in a predatory way, and openly disliked Arthur. "The king isn't on his throne, so you're the new pet project, are you? The mailroom prodigy." "I'm Mr. Vane's intern, sir," Leo said, wary. "Right. The Arturo Velez Foundation for Wayward Pups," Thorne sneered. Leo's blood ran cold. "What did you call me?" "Oh, you don't know?" Thorne chuckled, leaning against the cubicle wall. "You think you're the first. Vane does this every few years, finds some project, polishes it up. It's his little man of the people game, just don't get too comfortable. The novelty wears off. He always discards his toys." Leo's hands balled into fists under the desk. "You don't know what you're talking about. I know that Arthur Vane was born Arturo Velez. I know he came from nothing, and I know he hates nothing more than being reminded of it. You're a reminder, a little, walking, talking piece of the gutter he climbed out of. Be careful, kid. The higher he lifts you, the harder you'll fall." Thorne winked and walked away. Leo sat there, his heart pounding. Arturo Velez. The name meant nothing to him. But the malice. That was clear. He looked back at the screen. The ghost shipping operation. He wasn't just going to find it. He was going to build a trap. He was going to show Arthur Vane exactly what this wayward pup could do. 2 days later, Arthur summoned Leo. "The Kensho deal is back on," Arthur said, staring at the report Leo had submitted. "You found it, the embezzlement. Their CFO's nephew, apparently. You saved my Japanese partners. And me. Over $200 million. Leo stood, waiting. "That's good, right?" Arthur looked at him, his eyes unreadable. "It's adequate. Your analysis was sound. Your proposed solution, the algorithm you wrote to flag future discrepancies, was elegant. From Arthur Vane, this was the equivalent of a victory parade." "Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. You did your job. Now, the bad news." Leo tensed. "Sir, your mother is being discharged. The doctors say her recovery is remarkable. Well, the acute phase of her illness is in remission. She'll need outpatient care, but she's functional. That's bad news?" "It's a complication," Arthur said, turning to the window. "The corporate housing, the medical program. It was all predicated on an acute need, a recovery of this speed. It's premature. It complicates the procedural nature of our arrangement." Leo stared at him. "Complicates? My mother is better. She can walk again. She played the piano yesterday, for the first time in 3 years, and that's a problem for you?" "It's a problem for the narrative," Arthur snapped, irritated. "It was a simple arrangement. I provide resources. You provide value. This recovery introduces an emotional element. It makes it harder to pretend this is just a transaction." Leo finished, his voice cold. He thought of what Thorne had said. He always discards his toys. "You're done with us. Is that it? You fixed my mom. You got your $200 million analysis out of me. So now we're prematurely functional. You can kick us out. Put us back in the bodega apartment." "Do not put words in my mouth," Arthur said, his voice dangerously low. I am merely stating that the parameters have changed. The investment has matured. We need to discuss the next phase. The next phase? You mean the discard phase? Leo was shaking, a cold fury rising in him that he hadn't felt since his father left. I know who you are. Arturo Velez. It was as if he had detonated a bomb. Arthur Vane went absolutely still. His skin, normally a light olive, went a pale, sickly gray. He turned from the window, his face a mask of such pure, frozen rage that Leo instinctively took a step back. What? Arthur whispered. Did you say? I. Leo's bravado evaporated, replaced by terror. This was not the cold, demanding boss. This was someone else. This was a killer. Marcus Thorne, he said your name was. Get out. Sir, I didn't mean. Get out of my office. Arthur roared, his voice cracking. He swiped his arm across his desk, sending a monitor, a phone, and a stack of reports crashing to the floor. You are done. The contract is terminated. The scholarship, the apartment, the medical, all of it. Get out of my building. Get out of my life. You are filth. You are the gutter. Get out. Leo, terrified, fled. He ran past the shocked faces of the other executives, past Evelyn, who was rising from her desk, her face pale. He jabbed the elevator button, and as the doors closed, he saw Arthur Vane standing in the doorway of his office, his immaculate suit in disarray, his face contorted into a mask of pure, self-loathing hatred. The next 24 hours were a blur. Leo arrived at the new apartment to find an eviction notice already taped to the door. An official, coldly polite email from the Vane Foundation informed him his scholarship had been rescinded. His access to the Vane Global building was revoked. The hospital called, informing them that Mrs. Sanchez's corporate wellness coverage had been abruptly canceled and she was to be discharged immediately. It was surgical. It was total. By 5 p.m. Leo, a shell-shocked Maria, and a crying, confused Lily were sitting in their old one-bedroom apartment above the bodega. The power was off, as Leo hadn't paid the bill in weeks, assuming his new salary had covered it. The new shoes Arthur had bought Lily sat in their box, a cruel joke. Lily, her fear turning to a child's simple, direct anger, was wearing her old, duct-taped sneakers. Maria, pale and trembling from the shock, sat on the edge of the bare mattress, her hands clenching and unclenching. He just threw us away, Leo whispered, staring at the peeling paint on the wall. He's not a king, Lily said, her voice muffled. She was sitting on the floor, holding her old, damp sneakers. He's a monster. A mean, mean monster. No, Maria said, her voice surprisingly firm. Leo and Lily looked at her. He's not a monster. He's a ghost. He's a man haunted by something. What? What did you say to him, Leo? I called him by his old name, Arturo Velez. This other man. Thorne, he told me. You shamed him, Maria said, her eyes filling with a profound, aching sadness. You found the one part of him that was still wounded, and you struck him there. Not out of malice, but you did. But Mom, he was calling you a complication. He was going to throw us out anyway. Was he? Maria asked gently. Or was he just a man who doesn't know the language of kindness? A man who only knows the language of transactions? And you forced him to see himself. People do. Terrible things. When they are forced to see themselves. So what? Leo shot back, his voice rising. He gets to ruin us? Again? He gets to pull Mom out of the hospital, pull Lily out of her school, ruin my life, because his feelings are hurt. He's a billionaire. We're us. Yes, Maria said. That is the power he has, but it is not the power we have. She struggled, but she got to her feet. She was weak, but she was standing. Leo, we are not filth. We are not the gutter. Your father. He left. He was weak. This man. Vain. He is weak in a different way. But you are not. You are my son. You are a good, strong, brilliant man. And you, she said, stroking Lily's hair, are my light. We will not be erased. What are we going to do? Leo asked, his anger broken, replaced by despair. We're going to go back, Maria said. Go back? Mom, they won't let us in the building. He'll have security throw us out. He can throw you out, Maria said, a strange, fierce light in her eyes. He can throw me out, but I don't think he can throw her out. She looked at Lily. Lily, my love, do you remember when you spilled water on that man? Lily nodded, her lip trembling. I have an idea. We are not going to beg Leo. We are not going to ask for his charity. We are going to return something he lost. The Vane Global lobby was as pristine as ever. Arthur Vane had been in his penthouse office for 36 hours. He hadn't slept. He had been drinking. He was, for the first time in his adult life, a mess. His suit was wrinkled. His hair was undone. He had yelled at Evelyn, yelled at his board, and was now in the process of systematically liquidating every asset associated with the Kensho deal, a move that was irrational, self-destructive, and costing him billions. He was burning his own empire down because a 19-year-old boy had spoken the name of a ghost. He was Arturo Velez, and he hated him. He hated the weakness, the poverty, the memory of his mother's cough. He had tried to scrub that stain away, first with money, then with this family. And they had just smeared it back in his face. They were ungrateful. They were dirty. He heard a commotion, a disturbance. He barked into his intercom. Evelyn, what is that noise? Sir, Evelyn's voice came back strained. You have visitors. They won't leave. The security team is hesitant. Hesitant? Fire them. Get them out. It's the Sanchez family, sir. But, sir, the media is here. Someone tipped off the press. Arthur's blood ran ice cold. He strode to his private elevator and jammed the lobby button. The doors opened to a scene of controlled chaos. Maria Sanchez was in the center of the lobby, sitting in her cheap, folding wheelchair that Leo must have retrieved from their old apartment. Leo stood beside her, his face pale but defiant. And in front of them, blocking the security guards, was Lily. She was holding something. And all around them, a semicircle of reporters, cameras, and microphones. Marcus Thorne was there, standing at the back, a smug, triumphant smile on his face. He had, of course, tipped them off. This was the kill shot. Mr. Vane, a reporter shouted, spotting him. Is it true you adopted this family as a PR stunt and then threw them back into poverty? Mr. Vane, is it true your name is Arturo Velez and you grew up in a migrant camp? Mr. Vane, are you evicting a sick woman and a child? Arthur froze. This was his nightmare. Exposure, humiliation. The dirt was on him for all the world to see. He looked at Leo, his eyes promising murder. He was going to ruin this boy. He was going to destroy him. Get them out, he snarled at his security. The guards moved in, but Lily, with a sudden burst of courage, ran forward. She didn't run to him. She ran past him, to the spot. The exact spot on the marble floor, where she had spilled the water. Stop! She shrieked. Her voice, high and clear, cut through the din. Everyone stopped. The cameras focused on her. Lily stood there in her old faded dress, wearing her gray-pink duct-taped sneakers. She was holding a small brown paper bag, the same one she'd had before. You're wrong, she said to the reporters. He's not a monster. He's just sad. And he forgot his lunch. She walked slowly toward Arthur Vane. He stood rigid, a statue of rage and shame. He looked like a cornered animal. She stopped, a safe distance away. "Mr. Vane," she said, her voice quiet but carrying. "My mommy. She says you gave us back our family. You gave me back my mommy." She looked at Maria, who smiled, tears streaming down her face. And you gave my brother back his potential. But in all the transactions, we forgot to give you anything back." She held out the brown paper bag. Arthur stared at it as if it were a snake. "What is this?" he whispered. "It's for you," Lily said. "It's not a transaction. It's a thank you. It's all we have." He didn't move. He couldn't. He was paralyzed. Leo walked forward, slowly, and took the bag from his sister. He walked up to Arthur. The cameras were flashing, capturing every second. Leo was no longer the defiant intern. He was just a young man, his face filled with a strange, sad understanding. "She's right, Mr. Vane," Leo said, his voice low. You showed me what I could be. You pushed me. You made me better, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I used your past against you. I was scared. I thought you were just like my father, a man who leaves. But you're not." He held out the bag. "Please, take it." Arthur looked at Leo's face. He saw no fear, no anger, only a strange mirrored pain. Slowly, his hand shaking, Arthur took the bag. It was light. He looked inside. He went utterly, completely still. The entire lobby, the reporters, the security, Marcus Thorne, they all vanished. Inside the bag was not a sandwich. It was a pair of tiny, ridiculously sparkly, bright pink sneakers, the kind a 7-year-old girl would adore. Beside them was a small, handmade card written in crayon. He pulled it out. It read, "For your heart, Mr. Vane, so the rain doesn't get in. Love, Lily, and Leo and Mommy." He looked at the garish, cheap, sparkly shoes. He looked at Lily. She was beaming. I used my allowance," she whispered. "The new shoes you got me. They were very nice, but they weren't pink." A sound escaped Arthur Vane's throat. It was a horrible, dry, cracking, unfamiliar sound. The sound of a lock, rusted shut for 40 years, finally, brutally, breaking open. He was laughing. Or maybe he was choking. It turned into a sob. A single, ragged, agonizing sob that tore itself from his chest. And Arthur Vane, the architect, Arturo Vélez, the man who had built a fortress against his own heart, did the one thing he had sworn he would never do. He collapsed. Not in a faint. He simply folded. He sat down on the cold marble floor of his perfect lobby, in his ruined, expensive suit, surrounded by the flashing cameras of the press, and he put his face in his hands. He wept. He wept for the boy in the dirt, for the mother he'd abandoned, for the 40 years of cold, sterile, aching loneliness. Lily, seeing this grown man utterly broken, did the only thing that made sense to her. She ran forward, past the barrier of his rage, and wrapped her tiny arms around his neck. "It's okay, Arturo," she whispered, patting his shoulder. "It's okay. They're waterproof." The next day, the Vane Global Press Conference was the most watched financial news event of the decade. The room was packed. Marcus Thorne was in the front row, his face a mask of smug victory. He assumed Vane was here to announce his resignation. The man had cried on the floor of his own lobby. He was finished. Arthur Vane walked to the podium. He was, as always, immaculate. But there was a difference. His severe, side-parted hair was gone. It was slightly unkempt, shorter. and he wore no tie. His top button was undone. He looked relaxed. He looked, as one reporter later wrote, human. He tapped the microphone. "Good morning. My name," he said, his voice clear and strong, "is Arturo Velez. I was born in a migrant camp near Bakersfield. My mother, Maria Velez, died of tuberculosis in a trailer when I was 15. I changed my name. I scrubbed my past. I hid because I was ashamed. I was ashamed of being poor, of being dirty, of being me." The room was dead silent. Thorne's smile faltered. This was not the script. "I spent 40 years building a fortress of steel and glass to hide that boy. I built Vane Global, and yesterday, my colleague, Mr. Thorne," he nodded to him, "did me the profound favor of blowing it up. He thought he was exposing my weakness. He was, in fact, reminding me of my only strength. The press. Your reports. They got the story almost right. I did meet a family. I did try to fix their lives. I did it the only way I knew how, as a transaction. A cold, corporate, cynical exchange. I did it to erase them, because they reminded me of a past I hated." He paused and took a sip of water. "But I was wrong. They weren't the ones being saved. I was. They weren't the ones who were poor. I was. They, in their tiny apartment, with their duct-taped shoes, were richer than I have ever been. They had each other. They had loyalty. They had love. Something my balance sheets have never been able to quantify." He smiled. "So, I am here to announce a new transaction. Mr. Thorne, your hostile takeover bid for my company, which you launched this morning thinking I was vulnerable, is rejected." Thorne's face went white. "Furthermore," Arthur continued, "the board has voted unanimously to oust you. It seems the embezzlement you've been running through our logistics division, the one Mr. Sanchez here uncovered, didn't sit well with our partners." He gestured, and security guards, real ones, not lobby attendants, moved and flanked a sputtering Thorne. "As for the Kensho deal, my partners in Tokyo called this morning. They were deeply moved by yesterday's events. It seems they prefer to do business with a man, not a mask. They have doubled their investment." Arthur looked to the side of the stage. "I'd like to introduce you to the new head of my R&D Innovation Hub. He's a brilliant, if somewhat insubordinate, computer scientist, Mr. Leo Sanchez." Leo walked onto the stage, looking terrified but proud, wearing a new, well-fitting suit. He shook Arthur's hand. "And finally," Arthur said, "I am announcing the launch of a new, multi-billion-dollar division of the Vane Foundation. It will be called the Velez Sanchez Initiative. Its goal will be to provide advanced medical care, housing, and educational opportunities for the families this city, and men like me, too often forget. The initiative will be run by its new executive director, a woman of incredible strength and a far better pianist than I am a CEO, Miss Maria Sanchez." Maria, in a smart, professional dress, was wheeled onto the stage by a beaming Evelyn. The room exploded in applause. Arthur Vane, Arturo Velez, stood between them, and for the first time, his smile reached his eyes. 6 months later, a warm Sunday in Central Park. A grand piano had been set up on a stage by the Great Lawn for a public concert for the city. Maria Sanchez, her hands flying across the keys, was playing a fiery, passionate Chopin piece. She had never looked more alive. In the front row, Leo was arguing, good-naturedly, with Arthur. "No, Arturo, the whole algorithm is flawed. You're still thinking like a bank. You need to think like a person. The data supports giving them the micro-loan, even if their credit is bad." Arthur, who was wearing jeans, actually chuckled. Mr. Sanchez, if you cost me another $10 million on your human element theory, I'm sending you back to the mailroom. You can't, Leo grinned. I just gave you your performance review. It was adequate. Arthur rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. A small blur of motion. Lily, wearing a bright pink dress and equally bright new pink sneakers, the sparkly ones were for special occasions, ran up, holding two massive ice cream cones. She handed one, chocolate with sprinkles, to Arthur. Here, Arturo, you're thinking too hard. Your brain will melt. Arthur looked at the dripping, messy, childish concoction as if it were a hostile takeover bid. He looked at Leo, who was laughing. He looked at Maria, who had just hit a triumphant final chord to thunderous applause. He looked at Lily, who was waiting, her own face smeared with vanilla. Go on, she giggled. It's just ice cream. It's not a procedural complication. Arthur Vane looked at the cone. He sighed, a long, theatrical sigh. Then he took a bite. It was cold and sweet and messy. And it was, he decided, the best investment he had ever made. He reached into his pocket, his fingers brushing against a small, hard object he always carried now. A tiny, keychain-sized, sparkly pink sneaker. He smiled, took another bite, and for the first time, he finally, truly, felt rich.